Sorry.
Mr Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak in this bill. And I rise to speak against Lord's Amendment 3 and Lord's Amendment 1. And I may start, if I may, by saying how sorry I am not to be in the same corridors as the member for Chingford and Wealdon. I have done battle with them in the past, and I hope to do battle with them again. At the start of the Minister's statement, he made a point about the opportunities that Parliament would have to be able to ensure human rights were included in trade deals, and that there would be mechanisms to be able to be provided to ensure that every trade deal we did had the proper level of parliamentary scrutiny. And I would welcome him to go further in this, to intervene if he must, to be able to tell us how Parliament will be able to actually effectively ensure that every member in this House has the ability to scrutinise and debate and discuss the issues of this Parliament. He's more than welcome to.
I thank my honourable friend for that specific request. I think it's fair to say this House enjoys significant expertise and experience on questions of human rights, which the government would seek to take advantage of. I hear various members, chairs of select committees and others with great experience in this space, and the government is absolutely committed to making sure this knowledge is utilised and to explore how we can make sure the views of colleagues are heard and considered on these issues in relation to our future trade agreements.
Mangnall.
So for that comment, and that is something that I would also echo about what we can do on the Trade Committee, what we can do in the reports that we publish and the scrutiny that we are able to give each and every one of the trade deals that comes before us. Mr Deputy Speaker, what is the intent of what we are trying to do here? We are trying to address the injustices that people face around the world, from the Uyghurs to the Yazidis to the Rohingyas. The need, I'll be delighted to.
Does the honourable gentleman remember giving any scrutiny to the rollover deal with Egypt, given that Egypt is one of the worst human rights abusers?
Lady is very quick to criticise the fact that many of the deals that we now have are continuity arrangements from the EU. She complained last week about the fact that the deals were not done in took too long to do, and that they didn't include enough detail. The very purpose is these deals are not the end point, they are the start point for the future relationship that we wish to have with those countries. So I go back to the point, Mr Deputy Speaker, about what is the point and what is the intent of the amendment that has been put forward today. The intent for every single one of us should be to eradicate genocide, to be able to do everything we possibly can to prevent human rights injustices. But what instead we have is an amendment that will do grave injustice not only to the trade deals, but still essentially see countries trade with one another. Under the terms of this non-advisory trade amendment, which the member for Chingford suggested it was advisory, he makes the point about saying that we will be able to take the advice of the High Court but potentially ignore it. That is not what is written in the wording. Yes?
He's taken this one. He's completely wrong. It is absolutely clear that the government has the right. I read out what the spokesman in Parliament for the government said in the Lords, that it still remains the right of the government to change it if they wish. I don't say whether they want or not, but if they wish. It is in there. It is our right as Parliament to do that.
The letter of the law and what the amendment says is that international bilateral trade agreements are revoked if the High Court of England Wales makes a preliminary determination. I'm going to carry on, but he can come back to me later on. But the point is, Mr Deputy Speaker, is to get to the point where we can help those countries where genocide is being committed. And that is not done by a trade deal. What do the people who are suffering at the moment expect? For a High Court to decide whether or not to sign a trade deal. They expect the international community to be engaged, to take action, and that is what we must seek to do. This is global Britain, and global Britain must reach out to its allies to be able to create new institutions, to be able to ensure that we take action where appropriate. If we are unhappy with the international landscape as it currently sits, then let us seek to create new international bodies with like-minded colleagues, whether it be the Five Eyes in North America. These are the things that we must do, and we must be ambitious in doing so. And I believe to my heart that the government has the right intent of doing that. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'd like to move briefly as well to Lord's Amendment 1 on scrutiny. We've heard much from the opposition about how this bill doesn't give any scrutiny on scrutiny. We've heard much from the opposition about how this bill doesn't give any scrutiny to the trade agreements, but that is simply not true. The purpose of what is going on there is to be able to debate them. And frankly, to be able to stand up and say that Parliament is given no time is not an acceptable line of argument. And where the Trade Committee did have less time to scrutinise scrutinise the Japanese-UK trade deal. That is now being amended, and ministers have proven themselves particularly willing to listen and to accept a checklist of parameters before accepting or before putting forward a trade agreement in the future. I will.
Does he accept that, under Amendment, I believe, 5, the Lansley Amendment, that if a committee of this House says there should be a debate on a trade deal under Cragg, which he supports, then that should happen?
I appreciate. I revert back to what the Minister said earlier on about the House being able to have more scrutiny from the Trade Committee's individual report on a trade deal, and then for a future trade debate to happen around, say, whether it's between the UK and America, whatever it is. There should be, in my view, multiple debates on these trade deals so that we can all feel that the scrutiny has taken place. I feel that that is important, and I don't believe that that is completely against the argument of what others are saying. It is also, the Honourable Lady is, or the Right Honourable Lady is chuntering from the side. Throughout her entire speech, she said absolutely nothing about the EU-China deal. Seems completely content to ridicule every continuity agreement that we have come to. The very purpose of what we are doing here today and what we have done previously and what we will do in the future is to be able to scrutinise those trade deals, to be able to have the committee report back, and to make sure that backbenchers from every part of this country are able to decide what our future is when it comes to those deals. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as time ticks away, I'll make my conclusions. I appreciate what the honourable members are doing regarding supporting Lord's Amendment 3, but we can do better than this, and we can go further. No one in this House supports genocide. No one in this House supports the violation of human rights. So let us look to different ways in which we can effectively engage the international community and show our leadership.